Welcome back to Diplomacy and Discourse Podcast. I'm your host AR, and today's episode, we confront one of the most troubling developments in recent history, the latest escalation of violence in the Middle East. This isn't just another chapter in a long conflict. It is a turning point. With diplomacy stalled and violence surging, we're left to ask, how did we get here again? What are the consequences of these broken peace efforts, not only for the region, but for the world? In the early months of 2025, what started as a regional skirmish has now become a full-blown crisis with global ramifications. The failure of diplomatic channels, the collapse of multilateral engagement, and the resurgence of hardline policies have culminated in widespread suffering across Gaza, Lebanon, and northern Israel. Amid warnings from aid organizations and pleas from international observers, the escalation continued, fueled by political posturing, retaliatory strikes, and deep mistrust. Peace talks that once showed glimmers of promise have withered under the weight of political expediency. Regional actors, once willing to sit at the table, now speak in the language of red lines and retaliatory thresholds. And as leaders harden their stances, it's ordinary civilians who pay the price. Displaced, traumatized, and forgotten in the churn of geopolitics. The humanitarian cost is staggering. According to multiple reports from international NGOs and the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA or OCHA, the death toll in Gaza has surpassed 57,000, with the majority being civilians, many of them children. Gaza's hospitals are overwhelmed. Basic infrastructure has collapsed, and famine conditions are setting in due to blockade-induced scarcity and logistical collapse. Meanwhile, Israeli civilians have experienced the most intense bombardment in the country's history, with hundreds killed and thousands displaced from the northern border regions. This reality isn't just tragic. It's deeply political. Every destroyed school, every bombed hospital, every dead child becomes a symbol in the information war that now parallels the physical one. Media outlets around the world show vastly different versions of the same conflict, creating echo chambers of blame. Meanwhile, foreign powers posture on the international stage, issuing condemnations or justifications depending on their alliances. The humanitarian disaster is no longer just a consequence of war. It's a tool within it. The psychological impact on Palestinian populations is profound, with widespread trauma and mental health crises emerging. Many individuals, especially children, suffer from PTSD, anxiety, and depression due to the constant threat of violence and loss. The long-term effects on community cohesion and individual well-being are likely to be severe and enduring, further complicating recovery efforts. The destruction of critical infrastructure, such as electricity, water, and sanitation systems, will hinder any efforts to rebuild the region. Without access to these essential services, public health issues are likely to escalate, exacerbating the humanitarian crisis over time. Additionally, the decimation of educational and healthcare facilities will have lasting effects on future generations, limiting opportunities for growth and development. This expansion of war has brought the United States into deeper involvement, both diplomatically and militarily. In such instances, former President Joe Biden authorized retaliatory strikes on Iranian military sites following attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria. While the administration has stated that these operations are defensive in nature, critics argue that the U.S. is being drawn into another protracted Middle Eastern conflict with unclear strategic objectives. With multiple flashpoints active, Gaza, Lebanon, Syria, Yemen, Iraq, the region is now arguably in its most volatile state since the US invasion of Iraq in 2003. Former President Biden's administration focused on diplomatic engagements and limited military responses to manage regional tensions, often emphasizing coalition building and multilateral approaches. In contrast, current President Trump has taken a more unilateral stance, prioritizing direct military action and leveraging sanctions to exert pressure, signaling a shift in U.S. strategy in the region. This divergence in approaches underscores differing philosophies on how to address the complexities of Middle Eastern geopolitics. Following his re-election, President Trump initiated a series of diplomatic efforts aimed at normalizing relations between Israel and several Arab nations. These initiatives included the expansion of the Abraham Accords, which sought to integrate Israel into the broader Middle Eastern economy and geopolitical landscape. However, critics argue that these efforts have done little to address the underlying tensions and have not led to significant advancements in peace negotiations with the Palestinians. In a controversial move, President Trump ordered strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, intensifying tensions in the region, but also pushing stakeholders towards a ceasefire. Surprisingly, the rapid agreement to a ceasefire between Israel and Iran was driven by an overwhelming international desire to prevent further escalation and economic instability. This ceasefire has created a fragile window of opportunity for renewed dialogue, with both Palestinian representatives and international mediators working towards a sustainable solution, including rebuilding efforts in Gaza and reopening channels for humanitarian aid. Unilateral strategies, such as those employed by President Trump, can lead to swift and decisive actions, but often lack the support and legitimacy that come from broader international cooperation. On the other hand, multilateral approaches, like those favored by former President Biden, can foster long-term stability and shared responsibility, but may be slower to enact and can become mired in diplomatic negotiations. The effectiveness of each approach largely depends on the specific context and objectives, with unilateral actions potentially yielding quick results and multilateral efforts offering more sustainable solutions. Further U.S. involvement in the region could lead to increased tensions with Iran and its allies, potentially sparking broader regional conflicts. It may also strain U.S. military resources and complicate diplomatic relations with both regional and global partners. Additionally, prolonged engagement could result in significant political and economic costs domestically, as public opinion may shift against continued military action. Critics are worried that without clear strategic objectives, the U.S. could find itself entangled in a costly and open-ended conflict that lacks a definitive endgame. This ambiguity could lead to mission creep, where the scope and goals of military operations expand without clear direction. The absence of a coherent strategy may also undermine U.S. credibility and effectiveness in achieving long-term peace and stability in the region. Exploring alternative diplomatic strategies could involve engaging in multilateral talks with regional powers to de-escalate tensions and promote dialogue. The U.S. could also prioritize strengthening alliances with European partners and involving international organizations, like the United Nations, to mediate and facilitate peace initiatives. Additionally, investing in humanitarian aid and development programs could help address underlying issues, fostering goodwill and stability in the region. Meanwhile, on the global stage, the geopolitics of this conflict are unfolding in parallels with a broader transformation in how nations engage in competition. As articulated in John Sitilides' July 1st presentation to The Economist, the emerging world order is being shaped by intersecting pressures of trade, technology, energy independence, and geopolitical deterrence. Sitilides describes a new modality of great power competition, one that eschews conventional warfare in favor of economic leverage, technology blockades, and energy diplomacy. Technology plays a pivotal role in modern geopolitics by enabling nations to exert influence without resorting to traditional military conflict. Through the use of cyber capabilities, countries can disrupt critical infrastructure and gather intelligence, impacting national security and economic stability. Additionally, advancements in technology facilitates the development of cutting-edge weaponry and surveillance systems, shifting the balance of power and altering global alliances. Technology blockades can significantly alter international relations by restricting access to critical technologies, thereby impacting a nation's economic and military capabilities. Such blockades can create dependencies on alternative sources, shift alliances, and heighten tensions among nations. They also encourage targeted countries to invest in domestic innovation and seek partnerships with other nations, potentially leading to the emergence of new technological hubs and shifts in global power dynamics. This new world order implies a shift from traditional military confrontations to more nuanced forms of engagement, where economic and technological dominance become key tools of influence. Nations will increasingly focus on gaining competitive advantages in these areas, potentially leading to intensified rivalries and a reconfiguration of global alliances. As countries navigate this landscape, the ability to adapt and innovate will be crucial in maintaining geopolitical relevance and securing a stable international environment. In Sitilides' version, future global conflicts are likely to be characterized by strategic use of economic sanctions and trade barriers to exert pressure on rival nations. Technological superiority will play a crucial role, with countries investing heavily in cyber capabilities and artificial intelligence to gain an edge. Energy resources will also serve as a powerful tool, with nations leveraging their energy production and supply chains to influence geopolitical landscapes and negotiate from a position of strength. Traditional warfare relies on military force, armed conflict, and physical occupation of territories to achieve strategic objectives. In contrast, economic warfare strategies focus on using financial measures, such as sanctions and trade restrictions, to weaken an adversary's economy and exert pressure without direct military engagement. While traditional warfare often results in immediate and tangible destruction, economic warfare can create long-term economic instability and influence political decisions through more subtle and indirect means. Economic leverage has become a pivotal tool in modern conflicts, allowing nations to exert pressure without resorting to military force. By implementing sanctions and trade restrictions, economies can influence the behavior of rival states, targeting their economies to achieve strategic objectives. This approach not only minimizes the human cost of war, but also allows nations to maintain international relations while still pursuing their geopolitical goals. So economic sanctions, while effective in exerting pressure, can have unintended consequences that impact both the targeted nation and the global economy. They may lead to humanitarian crises by restricting access to essential goods, such as food and medicine, affecting the civilian population disproportionately. Additionally, sanctions can strain diplomatic relations and potentially drive the targeted nation to seek alliances with other adversarial countries, thereby altering geopolitical dynamics. Energy diplomacy has become a critical tool for nations seeking to assert influence and secure strategic advantages. By leveraging their energy resources, countries can forge alliances, ensure energy security, and impact global markets. For instance, energy-rich nations can use their supplies as bargaining chips in negotiations, while energy-dependent countries may seek partnerships to diversify their energy sources and reduce vulnerabilities. Energy diplomacy influences international relations by reshaping alliances and power dynamics on the global stage. Countries with abundant energy resources can wield significant influence by dictating terms of trade and forming strategic partnerships, often swaying geopolitical decisions in their favor. Conversely, nations reliant on energy imports may prioritize diplomatic relations with key suppliers to ensure access and stability, thus impacting their foreign policy and international collaborations. Cyber capabilities have transformed global power dynamics by enabling countries to conduct espionage, disrupt critical infrastructure, and influence public opinion without physical confrontation. The ability to launch cyber attacks or defend against them has become a critical component of national security, allowing nations to assert dominance in the digital realm. As a result, countries with advanced cyber capabilities can gain strategic advantages over their adversaries, shaping international relations and conflicts in new and profound ways. Technology's role in modern geopolitics extends beyond traditional military applications, encompassing cyber capabilities, information warfare, and digital surveillance. It enables countries to conduct espionage, disrupt adversaries' critical infrastructure, and manipulate global narratives through digital platforms. Furthermore, technological advancements in artificial intelligence and quantum computing are reshaping strategic calculations and defense capabilities, influencing global power structures and alliances. Cybersecurity has emerged as a cornerstone in the realm of geopolitics, as nations increasingly recognize the importance of safeguarding their digital infrastructure against potential threats. In a world where cyber attacks can cripple national economies, disrupt essential services, and compromise sensitive information, countries are investing heavily in cybersecurity measures to protect their interest. As a result, the ability to defend against cyber threats and launch offensive cyber operations has become a key component of national security strategies, significantly influencing diplomatic relations and geopolitical power dynamics. Cybersecurity concerns have driven nations to collaborate more closely on sharing intelligence and developing joint defensive strategies. International cooperation on cybersecurity has led to the formation of alliances and agreements aimed at tackling cross-border cyber threats and establishing norms for responsible state behavior in cyberspace. These collaborative efforts are essential for creating a safer global digital environment, fostering trust among nations, and ensuring the resilience of critical infrastructure worldwide. The rise of renewable energy sources is transforming global alliances, as countries shift away from fossil fuels and seek new partnerships centered around clean energy technologies. Nations rich in renewable resources, such as solar or wind, are becoming attractive partners for energy-dependent countries looking to secure sustainable energy supplies. This transition is also prompting traditional energy exporters to diversify their economies and engage in international collaborations focused on green technology, thereby reshaping existing geopolitical alliances and power structures. As technological advancements continue to evolve, they also introduce potential challenges in geopolitics. The rapid pace of innovation can lead to an uneven distribution of technological capabilities, creating disparities between nations that may exacerbate existing tensions. Additionally, the dual use of nature of many technologies, such as AI and quantum computing, raises concerns about their potential misuse in military applications, heightening the risk of conflicts and necessitating new frameworks for international governance. So where does that leave us? As the dust settles and ceasefires are negotiated, the region stands at yet another crossroads. Peace building isn't just about treaties, it's about trust, infrastructure, and a shared future. But for that to happen, leaders must shift from posturing to listening, from short-term gains to long-term visions. Until then, we remain trapped in a broken cycle, one that costs lives, destabilizes regions, and erodes the very idea of diplomacy. But as always on this podcast, we ask hard questions, not just to critique, but to challenge the status quo and to imagine something better.